Hello, it's audible.
Yes, yes.
Jain friends, today's respected speaker, Mr. Uday Singh Gaikwad, dear participants from across the country, organizing team of Cyber College and Kridai Kolhapur. I, Dr. Deepak Manar Bhosle, Associate Professor, Department of Social Work, Cyber College Kolhapur, officially welcome one and all on the FDP of Real Estate Management supported by Atal. Dear friends, it says that Mahatma Gandhi has stated that Earth provides enough to satisfy every man's need, but not every man's greed. As per his statement, I think the today's speaker is very up for this quotation. So I'm here to just introduce in brief the today's guest speaker, respected Uday Singh Gaikwad. Mr. Uday Singh Gaikwad has completed his graduation in BJC. Thereafter, he has completed the MJC, and afterwards he has continued the diploma in environment protection and management, and all this education he has pursued in the he always stood first in merit. At present he is pursuing his PhD in environment science from the Shivaji University Kolhapur. Mr. Uday Singh Gaikwad has presented more than 25 papers in national and international seminars, conferences, symposium, and all these papers are known for the thought provoking. Uday Singh Gaikwad is also a member of various committees. He is known as an expert in area of environment protection. So at present, he is a member of National River Action Plan. He was also appointed by the Bombay High Court to look after the Panchaganga river pollution. As per the today's so far theme of FDP is considered, is very much suitable for the Construction Advisory Committee of Kolhapur. He is also member of this. So that he will just give a lot of inputs regarding how to just go about it. He is also associated with the National Alliance for People's Movement, which is a very famous movement across the country. And very we are fortunate enough to have him because he is also a member of Heritage Committee of Kolhapur Municipal Corporation and Kolhapur District, as Kolhapur is known for his historicalness. He is a founder member of Mitra organization that is called as a Mass Initiative for Truth, Research and Action. He is also active member of Vignan Prabodhini Kolhapur, Nisarga Mitra, and Worldwide Fund for Nature. He is the research person at various renowned institutions like the Yashada, UNICEF, various disaster management institutions across the country. And at the same time, he is visiting various institutions and universities, not only in India but abroad also. By observing his such a contribution and commitment and dedication, he has received several awards. I will just name a few. He is a recipient of Rajarshi Shahu Samajik Puraskar. He is also recipient of Vasundhara Sanman Puraskar from the Kirloskar Oil Engines Limited, which is also a very renowned award. He is also a recipient of Chava Puraskar, and likewise the list goes on. He is also giving his contribution in syllabus designing so far area of environment protection is considered. At the same, he is a very master in various exhibitions of the posters, slides, and he has produced various documentaries on the environment issues. So far, he has published various books. Name a few: that Zero Waste, Global Warming, and Friendship with Nature. So, my dear friend, likewise, he is having a very versatile kind of thing, and so definitely today's session will be a very much fruitful. So once again, from the team of organizing, I welcome the today's speaker, Mr. Uday Singh Gaikwad. Thank you, one and all.
Hello. Hello. Am I audible? Hello. Friends,
Yes, yes, sir. Yes.
today's resource person, Mr. Uday Gaikwad, has been very active into various issues which are related to environment of the local district Kolhapur. And we are trying very hard right from the day one when his name was there. First in the list, you might feel that why he is there in the first place only, and what actually an environmentalist, that too a freelancer, is going to do with. But he is a real active worker as far as I know him for last so many years. And he has been thriving very hard to see to it that the environment is very properly protected. It's not just something which is done on paper and post, but something very actively in this region. There are some top 5 names in environmentalists. If you look at all over India level work and contribution, and especially association with environmental activism in India, Mr. Uday Gaikwad is one of them. Actually, with all the promises, Mr. Gaikwad has prepared his presentation. But since last 3 to 4 days, there is a committee which has come from Maharashtra Pollution Control Board, and he's on official duty sort of thing to visit various places related to Panchaganga pollution. He promised every day, and I was after him, and then even got the permission to come here. But there are some incidences of severe pollutions identified. So he has recorded his presentation and shared it here. He's here around in Kolhapur along with the committee. He's available to us, but personally, physically, he could not reach here by 12 o'clock. So we requested him to help us again. And with his kind gesture, he suggested that his wife, Professor Anuradha Gaikwad, would narrate and give a voiceover to the presentation. Because we found that the presentation is very good, but the recording part, somewhat, the audio is not clear at some point. The thought is so important that nothing should be lost. So please bear with this change. I always believe, and yesterday in mock session also I said, technology is meant for us and we are not meant for technology. So thanks to this online format, thanks to Google Meet, that we could at least go ahead with that. Mr. Uday is joining us from the site actually, where he's gone to visit something which is related to environment pollution. And he'll be answering live the questions to you. Don't worry about that. And he's available once the committee completes the task. So I'll see to it that once again he interacts with you before this Friday. But as it is a beginning session, I don't want to lose the temperament, the spirit, and the dedication Mr. Uday Gaikwad has done for not only this region, but for the entire nation. So I request Anuradha Gaikwad madam to come here and narrate the presentation Mr. Gaikwad wants to share with the participants here. Over to you, Anuradha Gaikwad madam. Thank you.
Hello everybody, and I'm very much thankful to our organizer and coordinator, Dr. Rajendra Parajat, for allowing me to make this presentation. I will just share the presentation and then I will start speaking. So just give me a moment. Okay. So transforming real estate to new normal habitat, a presentation by Uday Gaikwad. Uh, So when we start thinking about real estate, one of the first things that we need to remember is about our earth. We all live on this earth, and we all know that as far as our solar system is concerned, the planet earth is the only one which has life on it. So when we talk about this earth, one of the first things that we need to talk about is environment. Now, we've been studying this subject right since school days, and there are n number of definitions. Two which I'm quoting over here: surrounding and everything that affects an organism during its lifetime is environment. We can also say that environment is the sum total of water, air, and land, interrelationships amongst themselves, and also with human beings, other living organisms, and property. When we talk of environment, we obviously have to consider the components of environment. And we're all familiar with these three components, that is the atmosphere, the lithosphere, and hydrosphere. As we all know, atmosphere is the air, hydrosphere is water, lithosphere is sand, rock, soil, and each of these components have their own organisms which inhabit the air, the soil, and the water. And a combination of these three is our biosphere. An important element of this biosphere is an ecosystem, which we can define as a system of living organisms that interact with each other with the physical world. According to A.G. Tansley, an ecosystem is an ecological unit consisting of biotic factors, that is, the living factors, and the abiotic factors, the non living factors, which can be found in a specific area. Now, when we talk of ecosystems, we can divide all our ecosystems into natural ecosystems as well as artificial ecosystems. So, let us look at natural ecosystems first. Amongst natural ecosystems, you have terrestrial ecosystems, aquatic ecosystems. Terrestrial ecosystems can further be divided into forest and grasslands, and aquatic ecosystems can be divided into freshwater and marine water. Again, fresh water can be divided into running water, which would include springs, rivers, lakes, etc., and stagnant water, which includes ponds and lakes. Now, when we look at artificial ecosystems, again, artificial ecosystems can be divided into terrestrial as well as aquatic. Terrestrial artificial ecosystems are parks, groves, gardens, avenues. And aquatic again are running water and stagnant water. So in running water, we will have fountains and canals, whereas in stagnant water, we will have dams, ponds, tanks, quarries, etc. The next aspect that we need to look at is the habitat. As we all know, a habitat is a localized surrounding in which an organism or a species or a community is specifically adapted and which provides for all its needs. A habitat comprises of physical factors such as light, moisture, temperature, as well as biological factors such as presence of food and predators. This entire uh, habitat also contains what we call as the food chain. A food chain, we all know, is a process of eating and being eaten up by successive creatures. And basically, we say in a food chain, there is a flow of energy from the producer to the tertiary consumer. In fact, over here, you can see two examples of food chains. One is an aquatic food chain, one is a terrestrial food chain. And in each of the chains, the elements have been shown, which in which we start with the producer, go to the first order consumer, then the second, then the third, the fourth, and the fifth order or the final predator. And when we have a number of food chains together in a habitat, they form the food web, which again we're all familiar since our school day environment. So this is just a pictorial representation of a number of food webs. Now, all these food chains and food webs, they can be converted into pyramids of energy, pyramids of biomass, and pyramids of numbers. And we all know that at each of these pyramids, the lower base contains the primary producers, then you have the primary consumers, the secondary consumers, and the top is always the final predators or the tertiary level consumers. And therefore, the amount of energy at the top level, or the amount of biomass, or the amount of numbers at the top level is always less. So we have a stacking of population. Now, this population and the resources which are available in any system, because every system, as we all know, has its own carrying capacity, and therefore the resources which are available in a system are going to be the base for the carrying capacity for the population which can exist in that system. However, we are all very familiar with this population growth curve by Malthus, and today what has happened is the population of this earth has increased far beyond the resources which can sustain a healthy life for the population present. And therefore, we have come to what is known as a point of crisis. And perhaps this point of crisis can be, represented by this picture, because this picture shows a depiction of a real estate as can be found in a lot of urban centers. And this is really bringing our real estate today. It's bringing us to a question. Is this a crisis point for today's real estate? And if it is a crisis point, what do we do? So one of the first aspects that we need to take into consideration today is the changing lifestyle for our today's livelihood, or the way we live a life. Now, what is it that is causing a change in our lifestyle? One of the first things is greed for resources. Now, when we have a greed for resources, obviously there is abuse and overuse of resources. There is exploitation of resources. And all this is also backed by the present culture which we have is of use and throw culture. In fact, the concept of conspicuous consumption, which has led to consumerism, is also one of the aspects which is responsible for our use and throw culture and exploitation of resources. Along with that, we have introduced a lot of substances in our lifestyle which are not of natural origin, prominent amongst them being plastics as well as chemicals which are used in our environment. And the use of both, whether they are plastics or whether they are various chemicals that we use, all this has led to a lot of waste generation. And I don't need to, really speak about waste generation and the problems which are caused as a result of waste generation. All this has then obviously caused what is known as pollution. And when we talk of pollution, there is air pollution, there is water pollution, there is soil, noise, and light pollution. Maybe a few of you might not be very familiar with the concept of light pollution, but scientists today do acknowledge that the light which we use on our earth is also contributing to pollution, which is known as the light pollution. So what do we do? Do we not have any remedies or any means of taking care of all these issues? Of course we have. People who are familiar with the environmental legislations or laws as they are called, we do know that there are n number of laws which can take care of all these issues. A few of them starting from the Indian Constitution, Article 25, Article 48, and Article 51G. Then the oldest act which is available in India, that is the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act of 1974, the Irrigation Act of 1976, the Maharashtra Jeevan Authority Act, the Drinking Water Act, the Environmental Protection Act of 1986, the Groundwater Act, the River Restriction Zone Act, the case laws which are available under these acts. And the list can go on and on and on. We have specific acts to look after irrigation. We have specific acts to look after the solid waste and its eradication, which includes both the biomedical waste as well as the hazardous waste. We have air pollution prevention acts, we have noise pollution acts, we have e-waste management acts. So one of the primary, I think, duty which each one of us has is we don't disobey these acts. And this also pertains to real estate management and real estate development. These issues then get converted into city management issues, and we are going to look at a few issues where again real estate development will have to look into. So you have issues of river pollution, you have issues of water and its availability, we have issues of solid waste disposal, biomedical waste disposal, sewage treatment and its disposal, city sanitation and stormwater drainage. Cities have slaughterhouses, we have traffics, and therefore we need traffic management. We need open spaces, gardens and lakes. Then we have city biodiversities. In fact, when we talk about biodiversity, people usually only think that biodiversity is something which is related only to a forest or an open space. But that is not true. In fact, urban biodiversity or urban wilderness is a new term, and a lot of studies taking place on the biodiversity which is present in cities. Related to the issue of biodiversity, we have two boards. One is the tree authority board in the cities and the biodiversity boards, which are supposed to take care of this. Then we have hawkers, we have slums, we have disaster management and firefighting, we have tourism management, we've got energy management, and all miscellaneous elements which create a disturbance for the environment. So what do we do? The question is, do we stop our development and we go back to nature, or there are solutions for this? And I would prefer to go with the idea that of course there are solutions. So what are these solutions? So let us look at certain issues. Now, when we talk about civic amenities, these civic amenities are to be given by the local government bodies. In fact, they're mandatory for them. That is water, roads, electricity, sanitation, sewage disposal, solid waste disposal, open spaces, gardens, and disaster management. And what is very essential over here is these things are kept in mind by the real estate developers when they are developing their real estates. Now, one of the first aspects we need to look at is water, because whenever we build anything, water is obviously going to be required. So both the quantity and quality of water has to be looked at, and this water has to be kept in mind whether we are going to use it for drinking, that is for domestic purpose or industrial purpose. Along with that comes the water distribution system, and therein we have to look at pumping stations, purification, distribution, and the end users, that is the connections of the water which are available for the people who live over there. We also have to see if there are other sources available in terms of wells and bore wells, which could be standby sources if there is any problem with the water which is provided by the local government bodies. The problems and issues related with all this, the rate of water, a cost benefit analysis, and then what do we do in terms of scarcity. So therefore, it would be advisable to have a water audit, which in fact has to be conducted for each society or each apartment or each scheme which is developed. Along with water comes sewage. Again, sewage could be domestic, industrial, commercial. We also have to look at sewage which is generated because of stormwater runoffs and water which comes from other sources. We have to look at our drainage systems, our underground nalas, our underground drainage systems, our nalas, and the end point of this has to be an appropriate STP or the sewage treatment plant. Of course, at some places we have some other systems for drainage. Specifically, if you look at our rural areas, we do have a system of septic tanks which are in place to look at our sewage treatment. Uh, we also have to look at the pathological wastes which is generated by pathological labs as well as hospitals with respect to their quality and quantity. And we also have to look at the issue of public toilets because that is very much a part of our cities. Then we look at solid waste. Again, in solid waste, we have to look at the quantity and quality of waste and what can be done with respect to collection and segregation of the waste at source. Because the transport, the treatment, and disposal would be done by the municipal authorities, but there has to be some method of collection and segregation at source. Uh, we have to look at biomedical waste disposal, we have to look at e-waste and hazardous waste. And then can we think of solutions in terms of decentralization? When we are building our estates, when we are developing our estates, can we think of forecasting of these waste and can we think of some solutions for that? That is another issue which all of us have to think about. So thus, when we look at the environment and its status, uh, these are the natural elements of an environment: rivers, springs, lakes, woodlands, hills, gardens, open spaces, and grounds. The status of flora and fauna in each of these, identification of the biodiversity hotspots, and mandatory open spaces. These are all aspects of natural environment, though their status has to be identified, and management of real estate has to be done looking at all these factors. Uh, when we look at traffic and transport management, again, when we're developing a real estate, one of the major issues which we'll have to look at is the status of roads. How far or near it is from the major highways, from the major roads in the city, what is the connectivity, what sort of public transport is available, are we thinking of parking facilities, have we given space to hawkers, have we developed footpaths, skywalks, walkways and crossings, are there underground paths and one ways? Then another aspect that often is missed is festivals and their managements, because we all know that India is a city with n number of festivals. We have festivals which are religious in nature, we have festivals which are social in nature. So, for example, when we talk of Maharashtra, we have the Ganpati festival, we have the uh, Navratri festival, we have a festival like Diwali where we have bursting of crackers, and each state will have its own festivals, maybe a Pongal somewhere, maybe a Lodi and a Baisakhi somewhere. So we have festivals pan India, and then we have certain social festivals. We have maybe festivals of our well-known icons. Like again in Maharashtra, we have the Shiva Jayanti. Pan India, we have Ambedkar Jayanti. So we have these festivals, and we find sometimes spaces are not designated for a collective gathering of people during these festivals. So this creates problems. They need solutions. We need to think of alternative plans which can be put up for all these problems. One more important aspect which we need to look at when we are planning is our tourism. So each city, each area has a tourism potential. This tourism potential could be religious in nature, it could be historic, it could be industrial, it could be educational, it could be natural. So each area has its own, what we can say, highlights, and these highlights have to be thought of when we are planning for real estate. We have current tourist destinations and we need facilities for this. So again, you need to identify the problems and the threats required. We need to have solutions and we need to have tourist plans for our entire tourism. Then we come to air and noise. So we are all very familiar with the air and noise standards as prescribed by the Government of India, that is basically CPCB and MPCB. So we have to know what are its standards, what is its current status, and what would probably be a status during festivals and special occasions. Another aspect that we have to look at is our heritage. Heritage with respect to historic places, natural heritage, correlation between our current requirement of development and heritage sites, our conservation plans, and our heritage policies. All this have to be incorporated when we are planning for real estate development and real estate planning. Many a times it so happens that people want to develop a township or a locality at some place, and then we realize that it is very near to either a historic place or a natural heritage has been designated over there, and that could cause problems. So the heritage policy and the conservation policy should very much be synchronized with the real estate development policy. And inevitable part of our development has to be the disaster management. In fact, in the disaster management plan for each and every area has to be well developed. When we are developing this disaster management plan, we have to look at the history and incidences of disasters in a specific area. We have to identify disaster potential sites. We have to look at the equipment which is required for management of these disasters, develop a plan, and conduct a disaster audit. For example, when we talk about disasters, one current example which I can currently give you is the massive flood which we had in 2020. In fact, no, it was 2019. I'm very sorry. We had a massive flood in Kolhapur where more than half of the city, up to the level of 1 story, or in some places even up to 2 stories, was underwater. So we had a sudden massive rain, almost equivalent to a cloud burst. And after the cloud burst, because of n number of reasons, and absence of natural drainage of water, we had water in the city for almost 4 to 5 days, sometimes a week. And after that, the water receded. So, such events and such incidences have to be taken into cognizance, and then we have to develop our disaster management plan. So, when we look at all these aspects, what we need to do is we need to calculate the probable pollution. So, we need to go into a probable pollution load calculation, find out what is the gap between our estimated load, the current load, and carry out a SWOT analysis of that entire area, develop an action plan for it, and then have a future plan for the entire estate. So basically, we have to look at the environmental impact of whatever is going to be done, and this has to be considered with respect to the real estate management. So when I put up all these issues, it is of course difficult, but obviously it is not an impossible aspect. It is a challenge we can overcome, and which we have to overcome for our present and future generations, because if the very existence of mankind is challenged, then there is no point in planning for our futures. So what we need to do is we need to look into the environmental values, and I can divide environmental values into ecological values, medicinal values, utilitarian values, aesthetic values, cultural values, ethical values, religious values, and educational values. And we will have to coordinate all these values with our plans of development, our plans of real estate development. And only then we can overcome this particular aspect, because we always keep on saying that development is equal to conflict. This need not always be true. In fact, if we think of sustainable development, we can think of sustainable development and coexistence. And if we do that, then we can incorporate uh, the new normal, which is a reality today for today's real estate. So this is the presentation, and I thank the organizers for giving me a chance for presenting this. Thank you very much, sir. We will just see if Mr. Uday Gaikwad has joined us, so then we can take the question answers. I am stopping the presentation. So I would request the participants to give your questions in the chat box. Our guest speaker is joining us in a minute. So the first question I can already see has come: difference between real estate business and real estate management. So we will just wait for our guest speaker to join in, and then I'm sure he will answer. So just bear with us for a minute or two. He's just joining. Hello.
Hello.
So the first question for you is, what is difference between real estate business and real estate management?
Business is for only profit making things, and management, which we need to consult with all types of services, all facilities, and uh, the remaining thing which is the related with environment.
So the second question which has come is real estate disturbing coexistence of nature, and how to ensure it in urban environment?
Within the Town Planning Act, as per Town Planning Act, there is two things, which is development plan and one regional plan is there. We need to accumulate this type of issues with this development plan, which is built by concerned body, which is corporation or ILS. And then afterwards it comes under the legislation or any all rules and all laws related with this. So it I think it is suitable for uh, planning and development about real estate.
Thank you, sir. There is one more question.
Yes.
The question is, could you please enlighten us about electronic waste and noise pollution, which is causing major problems, but people are not very serious about it.
Electronic waste is it is within two or three major parts. It is from household also, then commercial and industrial also. There are so many damaged parts or damaged gadgets which is we are going to use within our premises, and if it comes within municipal solid waste, it is affected for water pollution, air pollution, and soil pollution also. Since we need to consider this type of e-waste management issues within about real estate development and city development also. And what about what is another point, which is I think air pollution?
Noise pollution.
Noise,
Noise pollution.
noise pollution. Noise pollution is also a most important thing. There are so many festivals and there are so many activities within our and people need a silent some they did not they have any disturbance of noise like horns, like music or Dolby and mechanical or any commercial activity which is make noise. They didn't have this type of noise. So we need to consider when we are developing city development or any type of development, which is commercial development, school, colleges, and domestic household facilities or real estate development. There is two things we need to consider. Government in this act there is a provision which is for silent zones. Courts, hospitals, schools, and temples, and any church and all these things are in silent zones. So when we are going to developing city development or real estate development, we need to consider this type of silent zones with us.
Okay, thank you, sir. So the next question, I'm not very sure, Purushottam Armugam has given this question. Did our real estate plays a vital role in GDP? If yes, why not the same to all building professionals? So, sir, I'm not very clear about this question. If you've understood, I think I'll take the next question.
Yes.
Or would you like to
Yes,
answer it?
Yes.
Next question. Next question is, what are important environmental aspects to be considered in real estate management and development?
I think I already mentioned in that presentation, which is basically biodiversity is the most important thing. That terrain, which is which is including in hills, urban wilderness. There are some nalas, lakes, water bodies, urban wilder places. And there are some very important, which is fragile ecosystems are there. So we need to consider all these things, which is environment related things, which is to be protect, to conserve, and to plan within this type of development. And sometime there is another act which is under Environment Protection Act 1986, which shows environmental impact assessment. as well as social.
I think we've lost connectivity
Of
with Sir.
environmental impact assessment.
But he was talking about,
Yes,
he's back.
yes.
So we had lost connectivity. So could you repeat about social impact and environmental impact assessment?
Environmental impact assessment is a provision of Environment Protection Act 1986. When we are going to develop any type of development, which is road, building, any city or urban planning, there is a railway or airport or industry, or anything else. At that time, we need make before that development, we need to take environmental impact assessment, which may cause for environmental issues. So this is also most important thing within real estate management. If real estate management people, those who are the developers, they must have take cognizance of environmental impact assessment of that particular area.
Hello, Uday sir. I'm Rajendra.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes.
I had very basic questions. Like when we started talking about your topic, you said
Yes.
all real estate people, they plan for new things. What about
Yes.
existing real estate and how it is to be converted into a good habitat, especially
Yes.
after this pandemic? So I want to hear your opinion, and I know you have been working right from day one, like with people like Medha Patkar and Rajendra Singh ji and all that. So now is the time has come ki people have started giving you a space and time to listen to your thoughts and the importance of it. So I feel that it's the right occasion. You narrate us how you expect these engineers and architects to look at it. That is the purpose of this workshop.
हाँ, मैं एक बात अच्छी तरह से डिस्कस करना चाहूंगा कि अभी भारत में कई बार नहीं हुआ, लेकिन भारत के बाहर कुछ बातें अंदर समझ में आ रही है। जैसे कि गवर्नमेंट ने बता दिया था कोविड के बारे में कि डोंट यूज एसी, हाँ, और सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग, ये दो बातें तो चल रही थी। तो बहुत सारी जगह अभी नए प्लान्स रियल एस्टेट के चल रहे हैं। उधर जितना एफएसआई या जितना डेवलपिंग एरिया है, सपोज इट इज 500 स्क्वायर फीट, तो 500 स्क्वायर फीट में अगर 1 बीएचके का फ्लैट बन रहा था, तो वो लोग अभी ये सोच रहे हैं 500 बीएचके में 1 बीएचके देने की वजह दो अलग अलग रूल दे सकते हो क्या, कि यानी कि इट इज कन्वर्टेड इनटू डिस्टेंस या सेपरेशन। One thing, there are so many malls and there are so many markets which is they don't have any natural air ventilation or light supposed to come in that particular building or else. We need to think about all these things. Air, light, and distance. These three most important things which is to be considered in planning or design.
Okay. Thank you.
And simultaneously, one more point is there are some important sites like which is social gathering site, cinema. Yeah, there are so many things. Any hospitals and any court also. And any administrative buildings also, they are also making some arrangements like the distance between two chairs, distance between the chief guest and auditorium. This is also these are the also small things which is to be considered. And one more thing is ventilation is most important thing. Car ventilation and which is lift and all these things. लिफ्ट में भी अभी कई बार 2 से ज्यादा लोग नहीं छोड़ रहे, एक सिंगल आदमी के लिए लिफ्ट यूज हो रहा है। बहुत बार सभी लोग अभी वर्क फ्रॉम होम कर रहे हैं। तो ये सभी चीजें, ये सभी बातें मुझे अगर रियल एस्टेट में ऐसी जगह भी मिल गई कि मैं अगर वर्क फ्रॉम होम करना चाहता हूँ, तो उसे मुझे एक अलग सी जगह, अलग सी सिस्टम और अलग से ट्रीटमेंट मिल गई, या अलग सी जगह मेरे लिए अवेलेबल हो गई, तो मैं अच्छी तरह से काम कर सकता हूँ। और घर में रहकर भी मुझे काम करना है, तो मेरे डिजाइन में कुछ अभी चेंजेस होना चाहिए। ये रियल एस्टेट डेवलपर्स के लिए चैलेंजिंग पार्ट है। लिफ्ट से, कॉमन प्लेसेस से, या घर में कोई अलग जगह देने के लिए भी उन लोगों ने सोचना चाहिए।
There is one more question. I think we understood it from this. What is the name?
Purushottam.
Purushottam. What he means is
Yes.
real estate contributes very high level in GDP.
Yes, yes, of course. Yes, of
But
course.
employees are not proportionately benefited, especially salary or whatever, and there is no proper representation or reciprocation. So
Which
what do you think?
employees? Which employees? The real estate companies
Real estate,
employees?
yeah, real estate sector workers or employees, whatever. If it is
So
contributing so much,
sorry. I am not thinking about this type of question, but after few time, I will communicate my opinion to particular
okay,
Purushottam ji.
okay, fine.
Okay, there is one more question. Whether
Yes.
laws were breached or broken for the benefit of developing real estate, like obtaining illegal environmental clearance. Are there any such incidences? Laws are broken for real estate.
Yeah. There are so many things in Mumbai. We know there is broken government also.
Okay.
There is one more question. Are there any government schemes to support and provide opportunities for startups in this area?
No such. In Maharashtra, there is a one good opportunities in front of us, which is with common norms are coming for development. This is only one thing, and there is no any another support system for from government.
Are there any more questions from anybody? Anybody else would like to ask any question?
And I must say thanks, and I must say sorry. I'm unable to join for presentation because of I am with CPCB members in Kolhapur. Those who are some visited for some important issues in Panchanga, pollution, and all these things. So I am with that team in Pollution Control Board office. So sorry for I'm unable to presentation, and thank you for this opportunity given to me by Cyber.
I'm asking to you sometime before Friday. So yes, last week.
Thank you, sir. And we would request you to give us some time again before Friday, if possible, so that we can have a discussion again.
Yes,
And I
sure,
would now
sure.
hand over the mic to Dr. Bhosle.
Yeah, Jai Uday sir, it's always great to listen you. In fact, a lot of questions you have given the practical answers. So hopefully all the participants are happy with this. So I would like to just quote one quotation from the Nobel laureates, Wangai Maathai. She always says that it is the little things that citizens do. That's what will make the difference. My little thing is planting the trees. I think this quote itself says that if everybody start contributing in whatever the little manner, hopefully that will find a definite change in the coming days. So no doubt today's guest speaker, respected Uday Singh Gaikwad, after having his very busy schedule, always we call him, he's always on the wheel, travels at various places for the betterment of society itself. Rather still he find some time and got discuss with the participants. So from the organizing team of Cyber and CREDAI, I just give a vote of thanks to Mr. Uday Singh Gaikwad. And as organizer is expecting me that if you really find the time, please do come again and have some discussions with our respected participants. So with this note, I just, with the consent of organizing team, I just declare here, the first session is over. So further guideline will be given the coordinator, Dr. Rajendra Pariyar sir. Over to Pariyar sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Udayji. And thank you, participants. We are closing this session and we'll be having a lunch break. And then the next session of the day will start. You'll be receiving a message on WhatsApp also. Those of you who are not on WhatsApp, please, all of you have my phone number. You just send hi to me. I will add to you and see to it that you continue after lunch in an appropriate manner. The next session is at 2:15. So you have to join by 2 o'clock or 5 minutes before that. Sachin Paranjape, structural engineer, is going to talk with you about structural issues and challenges. Thank you very much.